आप शुरू कर सकते हैं, आप शुरू कर सकते हैं दुबे सर. You can start now.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be back again this Thursday for our participating dialogue. As I was mentioning a little earlier, I'm taking chapters from the book The World Within. Now, these are actual conversations that happened with Krishnaji and individuals or couples during the Second World War from 1939 to 1945, when Krishnaji was specifically asked not to address public gatherings in US. So this is a very interesting chapter. Of course, it was suggested to me by Shakti ji. The theme is repetitive, trivial, unfinished thoughts. Those of us who have read Carl Jung would perhaps draw a parallel, but I'll suggest let's forget about Jung and just listen to what Krishna has to say. So the conversation goes something like this. DC said she found in her meditation certain thoughts constantly repeating themselves. She thought, examined them as we had suggested. But in spite of that, they returned with a peculiar persistency. They were so trivial, and yet she could not shake herself free from them. Excuse me. Self-awareness flows into deep and extensive pools of meditation. Every thought, feeling, however trivial, has a significance. Until she discovers it, it will continue to repeat itself. The trivial thoughts may come out of interest or habit or laziness. If they come out of interest, then they must be traced out, revalued, and thereby they will lose their grip on the mind. If they come out of habit, she must examine the cause of habit. Thoughtlessness in all its multiple expressions, thus awakening thought. If they come out of laziness, then she must become aware of laziness. Laziness of which there is no awareness is indeed laziness. But to be aware of laziness is the beginning of activity. She said that I had suggested these possibilities in the talks. She had earnestly examined these trivial thoughts to see if they belonged to any of these categories. But though she had spent some time over these thoughts, yet they invariably returned and were so distracting. She told me she was the mother of 3 young children, a typical American family. Lately, she had become interested in spiritual life and had attended some of the talks. She wanted to go more deeply into these ideas, and she had been trying to meditate regularly under great difficulties. She seemed alert and intelligent. There may be yet another reason for repetitive thoughts. Has she not noticed that a thought, an action completed, fulfilled, is not retained in memory? It is forgotten. Excuse me. Put aside, but unfulfilled, uncompleted thought or action digs itself into memory. A finished letter is soon forgotten, but an unfinished one becomes an irritant, a constant reminder. A piece of work left over teases the mind, thought is spent over it till it is completed. Thoughts, relationships, actions which are not completed will continue to act as an irritant reminder till they are fulfilled. An enclosed mind is filled with these unfulfilled thoughts, and they continue to haunt till they are completed, till the enclosure is broken down. Yes, she replied. She had noticed this and would try to complete these unfinished thoughts and actions. But she went on, how can one complete a relationship or an action which lay in the past, is spoiled, misunderstood, confused? Remorse and resentment, which are so similar and which, nourishing and giving a strength to the self, encourage the bondage of time, must be first set aside, for they prevent clarification. The intention is of highest importance. Through our relationship or your action is in the past, what does matter is your present attitude and purpose towards them. The present will wipe out the past, and what you make of the present is in your hands. The past is to be understood through the present. This is the end of the conversation. So we are all free to share our understanding on this excerpt. Yes, Vijay, please unmute yourself.
No, just when I heard fulfilled, unless one sees it is or it is fulfilled, that expression. So doesn't it mean that its triviality is seen? Howsoever we give importance to thoughts, we classify, we grade them, which is all arbitrary basically. We can see that, and once that uh, whatever importance one may have given to any thought, then the essential triviality is seen. Isn't that is isn't that what is meant by fulfilled? That's how I see it. So that's uh, as far as this expression fulfilled is concerned. And the last one is very it's a kind of uh, uh, maybe may I have it again? The last sentence that was very.
You
Maybe you
mean
can repeat.
the very last sentence, or
Yes. Yeah.
okay, he said the present will wipe out the past,
Yes.
and what you make of the present is in your hands. The past is to be understood through the present.
Yes.
Uh,
That's, I think, crucial.
I
That's
Yes, sir. I
yeah.
agree with you.
Mm,
I agree with you. I want to
mm.
raise another point. As you mentioned, he said that uh, I'll just come out. He said that an action uh, completed, fulfilled, is not retained in memory, it is forgotten, put aside. But an unfulfilled, uncompleted thought or action digs itself into memory. Now, I would like somebody to explain what is fulfilled, because especially in cases of pleasure where have enjoyed company of somebody, or if you have been to a place and you have really liked the place, there is a sense of fulfillment at that particular time. But you come back and it becomes a part of your memory, and you feel like going to that place again and again, and because that pleasure that you had or you had derived by visiting that place remains in your memories. So I think, as Vijayji mentioned, the last line, I think one has to see the light of that. I think there are two people
Yeah.
who give us explanation. I think Dinesh ji followed by Harshad Bhai. Dinesh ji, please go ahead.
Sir, according to my views and my experience, triviality actually for us, the thing may be trivial, but for the person concerned, that may be a serious matter. So that also point has to be seen. According to my experience, if I am having any desire, and if suppose I have to say in a particular game I have to play, and the thoughts of that recur or continuously come to my mind, then I have to practically go through that experience and to my competence level. And as soon as I reach my competence level, then the thoughts of that may not come again and again to me. So fulfillment means one has to reach to his competence level, that in particular matter. As he said, suppose your thoughts of music are coming to your mind continuously. It means you are basically, song is not important, but your interest in the music is very important. So if that has been seen, then and it is the thought is pursued, why I'm interested in this particular music and all that, and if the structure of that particular desire is completely known to you, then you may be particularly uh, free from that particular desire. That is possible. Another important point, what is in the last para, what he said, one has to go through his feelings, because we see the same thing also repeats in our dreams. Any significance of any feeling which we have not experienced, say fear or anything, then that subconscious mind puts you in the dream, that feeling particular. So in any dream also a particular feeling is important, and one if experiences that, then and gets its real significance. Suppose that threat of that fear is more prominent, then he has to remain with that feeling for some time, and then if that energy is freeze him, then only he can be free from that particular remorse or whatever he has mentioned. That's what my views are. What do you have to say?
Okay, Dinesh, Harshad Bhai wants to say something.
Yes. Are you able to hear my voice?
Yes, yes.
Okay. What I feel is that we are not thinking, but thinking is happening whether we like it or not. And especially when we are not aware, we are not awake, alert, there are many, many thoughts come and go. But when we become alert, then sometimes thinking stops. Like when I get up in the morning and I become aware that one line of a song, it comes. And then when I become aware, it will go away. But then again, when I lose that awareness, that song will come. And then sometimes I am able to catch the first word of the song. Like one line, Rut Basant Ki Aaye, means the season of spring is coming. So the first word, Rut, when it comes in my mind, I'm able to see it and then it stops. So our problem is that we are not awake and alert to see what is going on inside our mind. And then it creates many problems. And we also lose our energy when so many thoughts are going on and we are not alert to it. And also this somewhere in this paragraph, she said that she trying to meditate, but I don't think meditation one can try. Either one is able to see it, whatever is happening, or one is not able to see it. And then many, many thoughts come. And one needs to be very gentle, even when there is a thought which may be not a disturbing thought, not to get disturbed, not to analyze it, not to trying to stop it. Like it reminds me of Rishi Valley when I used to go up a hill every morning to meditate. And while climbing the hill, a insect like a fly, but it was not fly. It used to bother me, sit on my leg, and then I used to get irritated sometimes, and I used to hit very hard on my leg to kill this insect. But the insect was very strong and very alert, and so I was just hitting myself, and I am doing a damage to myself. But I realized that this is not the way to get rid of this insect. I can just simply touch it and it will go away. So probably meditation is also just to see it and not do anything about it. Then that thought will not arise. And if it arises, one has to be alert again and very gently it will go away. So we have this ability to look at whatever is happening. Probably the animals, they don't have this ability. So I see that sometimes I see dogs barking, and when other dogs are passing by, and those dogs, they are not trying to harm these dogs, but these dogs, they feel very insecure, and then out of insecurity they start barking. And this used to happen in Valley School in the early morning when I was walking, and these dogs were sitting very quietly, and I was also walking. But the moment some dogs passed by outside the campus boundary, these dogs which were sitting quietly, they started barking. And I was asking why these dogs are unnecessarily barking, because those dogs which are moving outside, they are not going to come inside because there is a barbed wire fence, and they never come. And this repeats every day, every morning. It's like a ritual. These dogs inside the campus, they will feel very insecure and they will start barking. So maybe out of insecurity, our thoughts arise, anxious thought, or out coming from the memory. But when we become aware of it, then without doing anything, they will go away. But the moment we lose awareness, again they might come. So this needs a kind of a playing game. If a person is really interested in this activity of watching, then later on one may not need to make any effort to be alert and awake. And even when anger is coming, if somebody says something, one can watch it and not allow a very quick reaction to happen. So, okay, I have finished. Thank you.
Thank you, Harshad bhai. I think Shakti ji wants to say something, and then Arun Partha. Shakti ji, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. You know, this passage reminds me that in Eskimos, there are different words for ice, snow. There are different words because they live very close to that atmosphere. And here, Krishnamurti is talking about thought, and thoughts, they can come out of, he says, interest or habit or laziness. And then he says that if they come out of interest, then they must be traced out, revalued. If they are revalued, thereby they will lose their grip on the mind. But if they come out of habit, then the habit is caused by thoughtlessness. And in all its multiple expressions, habit happens when we are thoughtless. And so he's inviting us to awaken thought there. So this is very, because it is not just we say thought and so many things they put together. So here is one deconstruction of the word thought. And the unfulfilled thoughts, they continue to haunt till they are completed. So this is something, it evokes an inquiry within that what's really going on. And as Vijayji said, this in the last, this of what you make of the present is in your hands. In this, all this karma and effect and karma, that all comes here because it is in our hand that what we are making of the present. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Shakti. Thanks a lot. We'll go to Arun Parth and then to Vijayji. Arunji, please go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening to everyone, sir. So actually, I've just joined this study center. Study center group for Indore recently. I attended last two. Discussions also. So actually, as per what Mr. Dubey sir, you read out something. So two words which caught my attention was remorse and resentment. So basically, if you look at it, most of the things is like we are able to deal with it. But if you see, when we actually talk about remorse and resentment, we carry on the unfulfilled anger or somebody with our relationships itself. So I feel that is one of the most toughest thing to deal with, because if you look at it, we have seen in our lives also many people don't talk to each other for a very long time, and that thought keeps on repeating. It doesn't fade away. Either two things should happen. One is the memory should fade away about that particular person, or the thoughts about that person keeps on repeating if you look at it. And I've noticed, like, in certain times, if you directly speak out to the person, then you feel as if a burden has been lifted, so in Buddhism also they talk about the concept of letting go as such. So letting go means, what they say is like more like if you're just open enough and just able to let go of that particular thought, then probably there might be a different change in life. So like the conversation which you mentioned, like I just feel like with all these things, how can really a person meditate? Meditation requires completely to be free of all the burden which you carry. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Arunji. Thank you. Vijayji, please.
Yeah. This Shakti brought out this word thoughtlessness. I was just wondering, it's tricky, and the word is used often in a sense where, probably simply meaning, I wonder whether it has anything to do with thought as such. The thoughtlessness seems to have a very strong connotation of being lazy or not paying attention, and it's not really free from thoughts or there being no thoughts, but it's one is not, in fact, thinking also in the positive sense, in the sense that you think about something, you reflect, you ponder, you pay attention. All this is involved in that. When you take thinking also seriously, if you don't take thinking also seriously, actually, as I often say, we transact thoughts. We don't really think, because think is action in the present, which if there's action in the present, then it is maybe thinking, observing, watching, listening. They may be all synonyms in a way, because there's action in the present. It's not ruminating in the past, or in some way mechanically going from one thought to another, but it is uh, thinking now, looking at things, and like when Krishnji would say, think, use your brain, think it through. So that in that, and thoughtlessness is when one is not, one is lazy, one is not thinking, one is not alert, one is not awake to what is happening in the mind, or you're not attending to something fully. So, it's a very it's it's a has a very special connotation. I feel thoughtlessness is, we need to give much thought to it, to, to really capture it. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
May I say something?
Thank you, Vijayji. I think
Ah.
Dinesh wants to say something. Dinesh, please unmute yourself.
Sir, actually, I want to know what is the I want views of
Dinesh, if there is some problem with your audio, you are not able to hear. Some problem with your audio.
able to listen. Hello, listen to me. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you now. Yes.
Okay. My question is this: two things which he has said.
Dinesh, I think there is problem with your audio. You
Yes, and after
come
it,
out
this is
of
the
it and then rejoin. Come out of it and rejoin, and then we can hear you clearly. I think we have two more people to comment on. First Pradeep ji and then Durga ji. So Pradeep ji, please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Sir, this is a very interesting theme because all of us are troubled repetitively with these cyclic thoughts, which are called vrittis. Cyclically, they keep on happening. In one word, if Pradeep has to summarize it, the cause for this is unfinished feelings. There is no closure to feelings which are there. For instance, I fall in love with a woman and I'm not expressing it. I want to be close to her. So what happens? The inside, I'm just thinking about her. Or if I've got some argument and angry with somebody, and then it is not finished, I'm hurt. That hurt is still live within me. So I am dealing with that hurt continuously by repetitively dealing with it, thinking is going on to deal with that hurt. So these repetitive vrittis, cyclical thoughts which keep on happening are because there are unfinished feelings left. Unless those feelings are closed, the moment the closure happens, the mind comes to a quiet. Now, the example I give, when Pradeep sits in the morning for meditation, what happens is these unfinished feelings keep on rising. And once they are alerted, given attention to, and then are catharted, released, the mind becomes quiet. This is one example. Then you see this, if I talk little technical, I don't know whether this will be understood, but there's an id-ego instinct. This is a phenomena has been explained by Freud very beautifully. The id does not recognize the reality is there or not. It fantasizes and deals with all its desires, which it is not able to fulfill, and therefore to fulfill those desires, it is constantly fantasizing. So that is also part of this repetitive thoughts. So the core of all the repetitive thoughts, vrittis, are unfinished feelings. So solution is get in touch with the feelings. They're unfinished and bring them onto the surface, see them very clearly and decide to deal with them in a functionally And if they're dead functionally in the present, that is what is the last line says, the present in your hand. You can deal with those unfinished feelings in the present, in whichever functional skill that you have, the way you have. The moment you close those unfinished, bring closure to those unfinished feelings, the mind will come to the rest. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Pradeep. Before we take up, Harshad Bhai wanted to make a comment on Vijayji's, what Vijayji had mentioned. So Harshad Bhai, please. Yeah.
Yeah. That word thoughtless, it seems to me thoughtless means many thoughts going on inside oneself, but not being aware of it. That is thoughtless. And I think thinking itself is a habit. It's not that we are thinking. Very rarely that we really think when there is a problem given to us, we think. Otherwise, thinking goes on like a habit. And why it is happening is because the silence, no thinking state is frightening. And so the mind doesn't want to end itself. And so it keeps itself active. And when this is seen very clearly, then there is a possibility of just looking, whether you are looking at an object which is outside or looking inside. Just looking without thinking is possible for human beings. And that is what I would consider as a real meditation, is in that state of awareness in which if thoughts are coming, they can be seen very clearly. It's like being in an empty room and your eyes are open, the door is open. If somebody enters the room, you know that somebody has entered. So similarly, this state of meditation is like being in an empty room. And if any thoughts coming, they are seen. And then there is no need to fight, try to suppress or analyze anything. Just looking is the action, like perception is the action, what Krishnaji says. So our main problem, I feel, is not thinking, but the lack of awareness, alertness. Because in that alertness, everything can be seen very clearly, and thoughts, they don't create problems. Okay, finished. Thank you.
Thank you, Harshad Bhai. I think Durga ji wants to say something. Yes, ma'am. And then Pradeep ji. And after that, Dinesh ji.
Hello.
Yes.
Good evening, everybody. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm audible, I hope, no? Yeah?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So it's a very nice text. As last time also you brought a very nice text on self-knowledge from this book World Within. I think I haven't come across this book. It's worth going through. And I think Krishnaji has very systematically, he has, in fact, I had written on all the points also, how systematically he had gone into all the points, regarding the thought. Every thought feeling has to be seen for what it is. Is it a trivial thought, or is it what kind of a thought it is? The previous speaker, I think Mr. Pradeep, he has said it very well. Some thoughts, in our day-to-day actions, sometimes we don't pay attention to the other feelings. We are in our day-to-day hurried life. So many actions we just do for the heck of doing. We are always in a hurry. We are always in a rush. We don't pay attention to them. So there are so many unfulfilled actions, thoughts, feelings remain in our consciousness. I think that must be the case with all of us. So when you give time to them, when you start attending to them, like this lady who has started meditating and all, so that kind of a pause happens in our life. So when we start doing that, all these thoughts keep coming to us in a bunch. So he says now very nicely he has categorized all the points. The trivial thought, if it is trivial also, why it is so. And then, and if it is, if it is of useful thought, why it is so. And so many times we act in a thoughtless way. Later on we realize, I wish I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. I think we're all very used to this kind of feelings. In a rush, sometimes we talk in a very rude fashion with friends or, or people who are working for us or neighbors. And later on we regret that action so much, So this is the constant movement of our thought and consciousness and feelings and all. So that I think by giving a pause and by going into all these things, we are allowing each and every thought to get its go to the root of it, and and get a purgatory thing. If it is a resentment and if it is the hurt, till the time I don't address that resentment and hurt, my heart is not going to be at peace. I'm not going to be at peace with myself. If I'm not at peace with myself, my mind cannot concentrate on anything. So it's very important that our actions or thoughts need to be seen for what they are, and they should be seen in the context of our own lives, not to prove to somebody else. Because unless and until we are clear, we are at peace with ourselves, then our mind is not able to. I think that's a fact, sir. That's a fact of psychology. And then one more point here. It's a very interesting point he has written, sir. I noted down. That is, he says, an enclosed mind is filled with these unfulfilled thoughts, and they continue to haunt till they are completed, till the enclosure is broken down. So he's saying he's not telling about maintaining some kind of a status quo. He says that status quo needs to be broken down. The very status quo of self-thought, that has to be broken down. Otherwise, the thought and self, they can keep playing tricks on us. The self and thought can say that, it has surpassed Krishnamurti. It has become some demigod itself. And it can keep living in its own life, in its own world. So he says the totality of it. Otherwise, one can keep on playing games. The thought can keep on playing games with oneself and keep on promulgating that, this and this had happened. So who is going to judge? Ultimately, the person himself, is able to see whether he's living a life of lies or whether what kind of life he's leading. So this is basically setting up of an inquiry, and without an end. We don't know what's the end like. It is all setting up of an inquiry, and where does it lead to? So, but are we honest with this? Are we transparent with these things? Or we are already coming with a lot of answers and conclusions, and we are trying to, trying to project some end in our minds, and we are living with that. So this question also is a very fundamental question, sir. So that's what he says: in an enclosed mind, and enclosure is broken down. And last sentence, sir, that's the intention or the intent is of the highest importance. Why we are doing this? Intent. Is it to gain some end, to become some kind of a leader, some kind of a monitor, some kind of a teacher? Is that why? Am I falling in love with my voice? My life is shallow. My life is empty. I'm not very happy with my life. So I have tried out some new formula. These are all the tricks of the self. So the very self thought needs to be seen for what it is. In that very seeing is the action. That's what he says. It is not that you keep some end in your mind and you think, and all your actions, all your thoughts are towards that end. I think that's a basic, the blunder of the very inquiry, I must say. So that last time also I've raised that thing, sir. The intent. What is the intent? Thought in its subtle form, if it wants to, indulge itself, it wants to promote itself, that has to be seen. And he says, so there's so many sentences, so many tenets are there, which can, promote, which can make us inquire more and more into them. He says, when you're rich in yourself, you don't try to go for all these, self-centered activities. The center needs to be broken down. And the time concept also needs to be taken away, because in this time I have to get it. That kind of a rush, that also needs to be understood. So this is the fundamental inquiry, sir. And sir, and Krishnaji always leads from point to point. First of all, he talked so much about thought. but always his ending of the paragraphs are always important. How he ends it. See, the real points come in the end. He said that, strength of the self encourage the bondage of time must be first set aside, for they prevent clarification. The self and the time need to be set aside. Otherwise, there is no clarity only. One is living in the life of his own, center. He has not seen anything at all. But does one has a kind of a transparency in oneself to agree and to accept those things, sir? So these are the very fundamental, crucial questions the text is asking us to see, sir. That's all I have to say, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Durgaji, for raising those important issues. We'll go to Pradeep ji now. Pradeep ji, please go ahead. And then,
yes,
then we'll go to Dinesh.
am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Audible. So simply, when I read this passage in my book, certain things came to me very simply, that what it is telling is role and reality of memory in human self. That is first thing. It is telling what memory does, how it is formed. Then second most important thing what Chhabra ji was also pointing out, the power of now. Power of now that can resolve imbalances. That is the greatest hope we get. That is in the last he has mentioned. Then fulfillment is also a very tricky word. To me, I can't tell this is exact fulfillment, because certain experiences, if you see in life, fulfillment of certain as experiences can be recalled as memory. And during meditation, the lady concerned was getting certain repetitive thoughts. They should not be taken as disturbances. I am no one to say should or should not, but if they may not be taken as disturbances, they may be revealing, very revealing. They may be telling your likes, dislikes, or your suppression, certain things. So they should be taken as alert to be looked into rather deeply in the present moment. Again, at that very moment when it is coming during meditation. So it should be taken as an alert that it is required that this particular thought should be taken seriously. And regarding enclosed mind and open mind, automatically present mind, the present moment can never be in enclosure. It can never be in enclosure. So again, the power of present moment, the present moment is so very important. So this should be taken as an alert, and at that very moment, in present, this can be seen, the reality of that thought can be seen, why it is being repeated. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pradeep. Thank you. Mr. Dinesh Waghmare, please go ahead.
Are you able to listen to me, sir, now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sir, what is I think the keywords are
No.
I think the audio problem has come back again.
Audio is not coming properly.
I think we'll move to someone else now.
May I speak?
Shakti ji wants to say
Yeah,
something.
Harshad, sir.
So
Yeah.
Dinesh ji will. I'm sorry we are not able to hear you, and there's nothing we can do about it now.
Yeah.
Yes, Shakti ji. Please unmute yourself. Unmute. Yes.
कहना चाह रहे हैं हर्षद जी, पहले कह रहे हैं, फिर मैं बोल दूंगा, अभी कुछ बोलना चाह रहे हैं जैसे आप। आवाज आ रही है मेरी?
हाँ जी,
जी जी। You know, sir, this one question about this thoughtlessness word, which Vijayji raised, is very interesting because somewhere else Krishnamurti has talked about students just doing something mechanically without thinking that why is he doing that. So because, but the meaning includes thought also, because if we read that sentence, he's saying if they, that means thoughts, come out of habit, she must examine the cause of habit, thoughtlessness, in all its multiple expressions, thus awakening thought. Now this awakening thought, because if he wanted to say thus awakening awareness, he would have used that word. So what is awakening thought? That is what he talks about, right thinking, so far as I understand. Because inquiry is essential. If there is a habit, one has to inquire. And for inquire, thought has to be used as a tool. And then with that thought, if it is used as a tool, is not to be shunned, because that inquiry is essential. Of course, it cannot conclude or it cannot give any solution. But to say that if the thought has stopped, every problem is solved, I don't go with that. Though I have never seen, I never experienced in my life a stopping of thought. But the thing is that thought is something very important and used, so far as I understand, intellectually. And so inquiry is essential. Thank you very much, sir.
I think I want to add something before we go to Harshad Bhai. I really, I'm only talking about myself. I can't imagine a state of thoughtlessness, because thoughtlessness means there's nothing in my memory, because the thought is, as we know, is a response from the memory which contains all our experiences or knowledge and whatnot, the whole content. So that becomes very hypothetical for me, but I can know of a state where thought becomes dormant, it becomes quiet, and it doesn't interfere in my inquiry or in my observation. That state, I think all of us have experienced at one time or the other. And Dinesh ji was mentioning what is this unfulfilled, incomplete thought and all that. I think Shakti had mentioned it earlier. Unfulfilled means something which is incomplete, and fulfilled means, in this context at least, something which is completed. One has gone through it completely. So I'll leave it at that, and then I would like Harshad Bhai to shed some light on this one. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I want to say about these two words which we are using many times. One word is this inquiry, and the other word is seeing. And it seems to me that they are not the same thing. Inquiry means that you use thinking to understand thinking. And to me, it seems like being in the plane of thinking only. So, but seeing is rising above this plane of thinking and then seeing the thinking. So, seeing is in a different dimension than inquiry, if that inquiry means using thought to understand thought. So that's all. Thank you.
I think Harshad Bhai, in every inquiry has to begin with thought, because that is the only instrument we have. But it doesn't have to end with thought. At some place in that inquiry, the thought has to either become totally quiet, so that, you, like the pole water, you jump over and go to the other side. So for the leap to occur, the thought has to be quiet. I only wanted to say this, then we'll go to Vijay ji and then to Pradeep ji again. Vijay, please. Sir, unmute yourself.
Yeah. Uh, I see. When we express, I think when we verbalize, when we communicate, inherently, when inevitably, there is some kind of juxtaposition, duality, or when we somewhere mind wants to fix this way or that way. I wonder when in reality it is uh, you know don't we see more of movement even when we say we don't experience thoughtlessness? Yes, I mean there's no thought or something, but when you happen to be listening, not you are making effort to do that, but you happen to be listening, happen to be watching, some uh, great movement when you happen to see the come out and see the stars suddenly, you or some magnificent scenario, natural scenario, or some uh, you know extraordinary movement, or uh, without any specific intention you find yourself listening to birds or watching. So in those moments, and then the thought also comes. So don't we? Isn't there a movement like once Krishnji said to Ravi Ravindra, showing out of the window and pointing at the clouds, and you know, and said, "Truth is like this. Sometimes the clouds move, sometimes the clouds are there. So it's a movement. So actually, in reality, don't we? Uh, I think the struggle is when we want to fix it, or we want to get rid of something, or verbalize that this is negative, this is positive, this is right, this is wrong. But if but there are moments when you're not struggling. There is a movement, and actually, there's life seems to be movement all the time. It seems, and only when we uh, thought can't help fixing, and you know snapshot. It's kind of, I use the metaphor, you're looking at the river and you take a snapshot. So a thought is like that, but then there is also the flow of the river. So when are you with the flow, and when you are back to the snapshot, maybe we want control. And since that doesn't work, through all our effort, through all our tricks, so uh, we have this sense of, well, not really being there or not experiencing, or and there is an inherent issue there, because as long as I want to experience, obviously I'm with the snapshot only, because it's all experience. All this terminology is part of that, part of experience, and that there's an inherent issue there. But there are, I think we all probably it's the movement is so swift from one to the other that we don't, that maybe the quality of awareness is what uh, either it's there or it's not there. And but I feel there is that, maybe when you have more in nature, you feel that movement somewhere, certain intimacy with movement. There's a movement is making itself felt because it's immense. It has certain power, and but when we are in a uh, generally in a daily urban life, today I went to Almora and I felt such a difference. There was so much confusion in this ordinary shop, which is well organized and all. It was because when you spend many days in a very quiet environment and you go even to relatively organized place, but there is that urban hustle and bustle. So there's a tremendous contrast. So um, I think it's when the moment you verbalize, you tend to fix, and uh, but the but actually there seems to be a movement which is from this to that. it's a, sometimes you're more, but we always have a feeling we are caught up in thought and thinking. Obviously, that's also true. So it's a, but it would be interesting to see if, when this, is it really that way? One could just experiment and see whether one is really thinking all the time and lost, or there are also moments when there is, senses are alert. There's a, you know, some action, which we, again, um, is it full of activity, or there's an action which has a different quality? I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to express uh, this flow, and it is so difficult to express the moment you express it, it already gets limited. It's uh, and there is always a danger of deluding oneself. So that's also there. So it's not. Uh, uh, and yeah, and when I think this just a thought on this unfulfilled. I think this is when there is no residue, when this whatever action is happening, when there's no residue, maybe that is what being referred to as fulfilled. You don't go back to it. The mind is not going back to it. It doesn't see the need to go back to it. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I'll be brief. I'm addressing Dinesh. He says, what is meant by unfulfilled, incomplete? By here and now data, evidence, 2 examples I will give. You wanted to speak, Dinesh, but you were not able to speak. So you are unfinished, incomplete, unfulfilled. And then what happens is there is a restlessness. You want to say, you want people to hear you. So you write it here. So that is the example of being unfulfilled. The other, and then you are constantly wanting to say what you want to say. And once you've said it through this writing, then you might have been at ease. So that's one example of unfulfilled. Second example of unfulfilled in the here and now data is when people talk too much in this group itself. That means they're not satisfied what they want to say to the others. They're unfinished. So they keep on talking, and bore other people as well. So that is another example of unfulfilled, fulfillment and unfinished. That is exactly what happens in my also. So that to here and now data example. The other thing that I want to say is that dreaming is also a process of closing and doing something which is unfulfilled during the day, and that gets closed during the night through dreams. So dreams also you will find mostly relate to fears or something which is unfinished, or some of your uncertainties, futures and decisions. So all those unfinished things also the brain during the dream tries to bring itself at ease through this dreaming. So this is a very great theme, and if we the more alert we become, as Harshad said, alertness, awareness, then these unfinished things and the power to close these unfinished things, they lose the power to keep you in that repetitiveness and stuff. So that's the way to freedom. Thank you.
Thank you, Pradeep ji. We'll go to Durga ji and then to Mr. Subba Rao. Durga ji, please go ahead.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, it's a great contribution from everybody, sir. Yeah, and nice points have been discussed and all. Yeah, like the previous speakers, they are saying, you see the nature, the beauty of it, and you live in the moment. And it's all sometimes you're unable to express, and also but I think basically it also comes down to the way you are. If you are a happy and a cheerful person, I think that also shows. It's not what you think you are, but what you are, what your life is. That is the reflection. Otherwise, your thought plays lots of tricks on you. If you are leading a very miserable life and you are shallow life, and you consider that you are become something like that, because what you speak and what you look and what you are is what it is, isn't it so, sir? A very simple word, sir. And like, if you just have to break down the teaching to some extent, as far as my understanding goes, it's about thought as I, me, myself. How like the piercing quality we have to see into our own actions. It is the study of I by I itself. How fiercely you are keen to go into all that. Because Krishnaji's teaching is pointing to that, the deeper recesses of our own being. He talks about so many things, immeasurable, he says. You just can't reach it. You just have to, keep purging your own ground, your own field. That's all that is in your hand. Otherwise, you can live your shallow life and you can keep projecting yourself. All those things are also there, sir. They're part of it, sir. Just I'd like to say, I just want to bring it to the notice, sir. Like, in Ending of Time, with the deep conversations with David Baum, there Krishnaji uses a very fundamental, you can say tenets or precepts. He says, because as readers of Krishnamurti, I think we need to apply our minds to all these things also. I think we have been reading him for so many years. So it's up to us. We can just take a little bit of it and we can satisfy and we can sit in one corner, or we can go into, it's up to us. So he says, going from, particular to the general and then to the universal. And that is a very fundamental tenet, I think, that ending of time. And then he says, there is a mention of ground. He says, when you have the capacity to, and that capacity lies within you. Only one has to tread that path. Nobody is going to show the light to you. You have to find out light for yourself. The thing is, how far you are invested in understanding Krishnamurti. Krishnamurti, understanding Krishnamurti is understanding yourself and the world you are living in. That's it. It's nothing, no other theory has brought it. But how, entrenched we are in our thoughts of self, I, me, myself. We just can't go beyond that. So, and he has set all the methods and the ways also on the table. In his elaborate, exhaustive discussions, all is there. But how far humanity is able to reach there? How far even few human beings at least can go there? That's also it's a big question mark we need to ask, sir. It's what does he mean by this? Do we have that kind of a capacity to inquire into all these things? What does he mean by you have to be inwardly rich to keep away the trappings of the world? Because thought as identity, thought as a chattering mind, thought as perpetually choosing this and that is very difficult, sir. Unless and until one is completely at it, it's not possible to keep away the trappings of the self. So he says the identity, how the worldly ways, all these things, how far the more you keep them away, the more, that is, you have to be inwardly rich to keep them away. So the more understanding as per what Krishnaji is pointing to, it may keep surfacing, sir. I thought this Ending of Time, recently I was reading, and I thought I should bring it to the, into the conversations of, our discussions. That's why I brought it, sir. Thank you. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Mr. Subba Rao. I don't see him around. Mr. Subba Rao, he's not there. So we'll go to Harshad Bhai and then to Mr. Pradeep Verma and then to Mr. Raj Shekhar. Yes.
Okay. Yes. I agree with Pradeep Prakash ji, whatever he said. I completely agree. And sometimes when something is unresolved in our waking hours, it gets resolved during dream. Even scientific research sometimes happens in the dream. When I look at myself, I see three kinds of states. One is thoughts are going on and I am not aware. And then I suddenly become aware and I know that now the thoughts are going on. Sometimes I am aware and then the thoughts are coming, I can see that. And sometimes there is only awareness and no thoughts. And these are really wonderful state in which we can see everything so clear. Even thoughts entering, we can see, and they don't create any problems. So these three kinds of states which I feel within myself. Okay, so I finish. Okay, thank you.
I think Mr. Subba Rao, thank you, Harshad Bhai. So Mr. Subba Rao has joined us again. Would you like to say something, sir?
Yes, sir. I'm from Vijayawada. I'm Subba Rao. Nice to join you, sir. I'm not entered from the beginning, but I will talk what I feel like. Regarding thought, what is its role? And why we are going for inquiry? What is the purpose of inquiry? With these few points, I will talk. Thought, as we know, is this experience stored as knowledge, and that knowledge becomes memory. Response of memory is thought. That is always limited, that's always mechanical, that's always repetitive, and whatever work it does, it is incomplete. That is one aspect. Second aspect, thought functions. For technological aspect, it does wonderful things. It is an instrument of our intellect. There is no doubt about it. So for the intellect, thought is a must role. So their thought only can act. Then what are the limitations of thought? The limitations of thought are when we are inquiring. What does it mean, inquiry? It means when we inquire into something unknown, like we want to find the truth of what is, or we want to see what is God, either God or not. These are some of the questions we don't know, really don't know. With that mind, we are going to inquire. Then has thought any role at all in inquiry of that thing? Because thought is always limited, that is always controlled by time. So time always past, whereas what is always now in the present. The power of, somebody told very nicely, the power of now is always what is. So to see the what is, we have to act now only. That action also must be now. Challenge is now and action also is now. But thought being a product of time, it cannot act now. So what is the alternative we have got? To inquire into something. So thought has no role at all when we want to go into inquire. Suppose we want to fulfill something, can we go into fulfillment? Fulfillment means already we know what is the goal of our destination. Is truth known thing? Truth is unknown thing. Something unknown, something live, it is living. So something unknown cannot be inquired as a fulfillment. I mean, that's what I feel. So there is no question of the very question of fulfillment may not be a correct action when we are going for inquiry. Inquiry is something unknown. We want to see something truth. It is there is suffering that is going on in me. We want to see the truth of it. Is it really true or false? For that, I want to inquire. For that, thought has no role. Having understood that thought has no role, it is of time. It is under the control of time. Time is always past. It is mechanical. Whereas truth is always now. It is living and live. So for that, thought has no role at all. So what is the alternative? The only alternative we have got is seeing. Seeing is the only action. What is the state of mind where thought has no chance to enter into the mind? That is a state of attention. When you take all the care and attention, you observe everything with the care and attention. What happens? All the senses are activated. So you are in a state of attention. In the state of attention, something from the past cannot enter. Thought is always from the past. Thought is always known. It cannot enter now. So in the state of attention, the only thing we can do is seeing only. In that seeing, the observer also from the past cannot enter because we are in the state of attention. When we are attending and observing that what is in the state of attention, that feeling of what is maybe an anger or a fear or whatever it is. When we are seeing that feeling, it is not even word, that feeling only we are observing. When we observe that feeling, now with all care and attention, we see that truth of that flowering of that feeling takes place and withers away. So we see it is false. So it simply drops away. So that is where we see the truth that comes out only through act of perception. Act of perception is always now in a timeless state. Thought has no role. Thought being already told, it is past, limited, repetitive, mechanical, etc. Of time period. We have to go into a different dimension that is timeless state. That is my understanding, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Subba Rao. Pradeep ji and then Mr. Raj Shekhar.
So, we were talking recently about, different speakers talked about thoughtlessness. And it was expressed like this, that thoughtlessness may be, it looks very hypothetical situation. But thoughtlessness is not that rare in our life, provided we are moving in the terrain of unknown. And this also is not very rare, because when we go for a walk daily in the morning, most of it is unknown. Most of it is unknown. So, what I was talking about was thoughtlessness happens to us, but momentarily. It cannot be a continuum. You see, the moment there is a gap, thought rushes in, and especially when we are in a storm of thoughts. Answers are also given as thoughts. Inquiries as thoughts. So instead of fighting with thought, we have to be alert while in our activities, day-to-day activities. The moment I go out, when am I going out, why I am going out, everything, if you are attentive to whatever a person is doing, then the known doesn't interfere in that. So thoughtlessness, when you see something as exemplified earlier as mountain and this and that, and then suddenly, so you at that moment you are thoughtless for some time, but then again thought rushes in. So thoughtlessness is important, definitely, to see things as they are. Thoughtlessness is a must. Afterwards, you can explain that this is very much like that, half like that, and all that. All that can happen later on. But thoughtlessness has to be there. No compulsion of past or repetition, of cyclic repetition when you have agenda, when you have going with a motive. All those things can definitely spoil these things. But otherwise, thoughtlessness may be momentary, but it is very important to see things as they are. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pradeep ji. We'll go to Raj Shekhar ji now. Please go ahead, sir. Mr. Raj Shekhar.
Good evening to all. When Mr. Vijay Chhabra was talking about the movement of clouds and flow of river, yes, I am puzzled at one thing, sir. These thoughts are going on coming. That is always there with everyone. See, when I am going for a walk, I generally go for alone. I am to myself, I am with nature. I somehow feel the beauty of even a blade of grass when it is tossing its head as though it is talking to us, to me, saying hello, or any other clouds movement I watch. Rivers, of course, they are not near. That is a rare things because they are far away from me. Or when a lake also, when something it is a still, there is a beauty of the surroundings. But when there are wind or waves are there, these are all there. But we are experiencing that beauty, that extraordinary beauty in even a small, tiny flower also. That somehow I am connected, I am happy about it. But that experiencing is there, then the thoughts comes, then there is an expression of it. Oh, how nice it is, or how lovely the clouds are moving with the different shapes, because they go on changing the shape also. The patterns goes on changing also. So all these things are there. Is it thought that experiencing, as per J.D. Krishnamurti also, there is no subject and object. We are experienced. But that experience remains maybe a second or two, or sometimes a fraction, or sometimes maybe 3 seconds. But it is not more. Immediately the thought comes, expression comes, and so many things. My doubt, I am puzzled whether they are intermittent, one after the other, or is there any simultaneousness? The experiencing of that beauty and the thought and the expression means words in words. This is where I am puzzled. But I'm happy that I am connected with the nature very much. Any tiny thing, a small flower, people walk on it. But when I see it, I just go aside. I stop for some time. I watch it. So I take photos also, sir. Then I take some 10-15 photos in different direction. I spend 10 minutes to take the photo of that tiny flower. And generally I share my greetings, morning greetings with what I take only. Generally, mostly with some message or some thoughts. So this puzzle, anyone can clarify, sir. Is it intermittent, or there is a connectivity simultaneous, maybe fraction of second. I am not telling that will be there for so much longer period, maybe fraction of second or a second or so. Is there any continuity of this or simultaneousness? There is a doubt, sir, where if any more experienced people are there, if they can throw some light on it, I like to visit them, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
It is over.
Harshad Bhai wants to say something. Yes.
Yeah. Seeing whatever is happening, whether we are walking in the park or walking on the street or sitting in our own room, whatever is happening, that watching what is moving. All, but the entity or whatever is the that seeing is a wonderful thing. Whether it sees a cloud or a cow on the street, that seeing from what state of our mind we are looking at all these things. And that is very important. And it seems to me that this thinking, which is coming and going, is like a clouds coming and going, and in the background there is a sky. So this awareness is like a sky, and in the sky of awareness, thoughts are coming and going. And that is the real beauty to be in such a way of looking, seeing. In that, there is no much thinking, not trying to find out all these things. At least I have not done it. Even when I read Krishnamurti, I did not try to think on what he said, but what is happening in me, that is important. And so I think that is the real beauty in looking at ourselves as we are and not trying to explain Krishnamurti's teachings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Harshad Bhai. Thank you. Yes, Rajshekhar, you wants to say something. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, Ashok sir actually has touched about my puzzle. That is true. I also understand that. I am happy for that experiencing the nature, beauty of the nature. Puzzled means I wanted to share it, but I am not worried about it, about that puzzle. But sometimes I think, is it simultaneous? Is it there is a continuity or there is an intermittent? It is all there. The question is there because I go deep into that, whether what is that. But I am not worried about it. I enjoy it. I enjoy my walking. I enjoy the nature. Thank you, sir. It's over, sir.
Thank you, Rajshekhar. I think we can. Shakti ji wants to raise an important question. And Shakti, you want to say it yourself, please? Please unmute yourself. Unmute, yeah.
You see, I I just wanted to share that question with you because it might look like arguing, but it is not arguing. So I will say it. You see, if a person is aware or attentive, is it so that he becomes unable to think? Or his thinking would be in the light of awareness, attention, which Krishnamurti perhaps calls right thinking? You see, this question is coming from purely intellectual understanding. So it's not arguing, it's just a question. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Shakti. I think we should stay with this question. Harshad Bhai wants to say something. Please unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you able to hear?
Yes, we are.
Yes. In that state of attention or awareness, whatever is coming, thoughts, they are seen as they are. So it is not that in the state of attention or awareness, there is no thinking. Thinking is there, but it is seen and it doesn't create any problem. Problem happens only when there is no awareness and then thinking multiplies and one becomes angry or all kinds of reactions happen. So I would say yes to Shakti ji that in the state of awareness, whatever is happening are seen, whether there are thoughts or no thoughts. Both things are possible in the state of awareness. And you don't distinguish between the two states also, because what is what is unfolding, and that is what it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Harshad ji. We'll take the last comment by Durga ji. Please unmute yourself and then we'll close. Yeah.
Yes, just to whatever that's been discussed here, like for the past last two speakers and participants. Yeah, I think this happens with most of us. Like when we see the nature, and we all enjoy the nature, and especially I think maybe by nature we maybe might have been nature lovers, or maybe after reading Krishna ji we become nature lovers, whatever it is. So when he says in the moment of when you are looking at the beauty of a hill, the beauty engulfs you and you are not there. He says beauty is when self is not. Those moments of beauty we all enjoy. I think, but only thing, thought immediately comes and corrupts. That's also he says. Thought comes and it wants to encash, it wants to verbalize it, it wants to give label to it, and it wants to take credit to it, thought as self. That is the problem, sir. Otherwise, I think we all have these moments of, joy and, looking at the nature, getting lost in the nature. That's all very common to all of us. Maybe for me, it's more common because I'm like more of a lover, nature of lover, like a lover of nature. So the thing is, can we just leave that moment and just forget about it, not make a big story of it, or, so he says, he always gives a warning, how thought as self and me comes and corrupts. That is the problem we have to see. And he says, when beauty is, when self is not. When you are not there, then the beauty is there. It's all there. The I, me, myself. And thought as that, that entrenched feeling, that is there for the past 5,000 year of conditioning. And he says, there is a thought taking the wrong turn. Maybe this is all the indications, sir. When man has become so selfish, self-centered, self-oriented, maybe there is a wrong turn that has taken by the humanity, sir. So that's all I want to contribute to the previous speakers, comments, sir. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Durga Ji. Thanks a lot. We come to the end of the dialogue session now. This coming Sunday, that is on 5th, we have Mr. Ulrich Brugger from Ohio. He is Director of Retreats. The talk will start at 9:30 a.m. just to accommodate his time. So next Sunday, that is on 5th, 9:30 a.m., Mr. Ulrich Brugger will talk to us. With these words, I thank you all once again for being here, and let's meet on Sunday again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Time is 9:30. Please remember, time is 9:30 on Sunday. Thank you. Thanks to everybody.
Thank you.
Please close it, Kamlesh ji.